Hello. Happy Sunday to everyone. Happy
Howdy,
Sunday,
friends.
Mars. Howdy, friends. Happy Easter. Apparently, it's a holiday today for some
It is a
people.
holiday for some people,
Yeah.
absolutely. And what better way to celebrate than by attending your favorite comic church?
Yeah, Comic Church on Happy Easter Sunday. Comic Church Special Edition.
Special
Special.
edition. It's a special episode today. We've missed 2 weeks. We've got a lot of comics to talk about, a lot of news. As you can see, the Casually Comic Show has a little bit of a new look and a new
It does.
upgrade.
Thank you to
So
Mars, because Mars. Just so all of you watching kind of know the behind the scenes, Mars will just text me and be like, I was working on something. What do you think? And then just shows me this beautiful magicalness, and it's amazing. So whenever I talk about like, oh yeah, I do this like show and I do this YouTube show, and we start shit with comic creators and are like, we think this comic creator likes the smell of their own farts, and like, please never show me a Batman comic again. You're truly the better half of the show, and this is why, for so many reasons.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But yeah, new look, new brand. I figured, we've been doing this for what, a year and a half now?
Yeah, just
A
about.
year and a half. It's going to be not quite 2 years, but 2 years in August since we officially first collabed. Not necessarily the first Casually Comic show, but the first Comic Books Will Break Your Heart and that Comic Girl crossover. Oh, I like what I did there. Ooh, crossover. But yeah, I mean, it's about time that we start branding and stepping away from the scene and, kind of doing what we do best. So yeah.
And you have been very hard, like working on some merch that looks really, really cool. So I'm really excited for that.
Look, Jen spoiling all the goodies that I was going to save until the end. But yes, you know what? While we're here, merch is in the works. So there have been a very few special friends, aside from Jen, obviously. Very few special friends that have seen what I have been working on. And listen, if I have my way, Casually Comics merch will be dropping as of next week. So get your wallets ready because there's some good stuff for y'all.
Speaking of special friends, we've got some people here in the chat that I want to say hello to. Hello to Niall. Hello, everyone. Scott, hello to all my internet friends. Hello to all my internet friends and all my internet enemies. Thank you for being here. JD Barry, hello. Hello, all. Thank you. Howdy, friends. Howdy, all friends. Let's talk books from Joram. And hello to our friend Travis. Happy Sunday, everyone.
Don't mind me just changing stuff as you're talking.
Hello to X11 Bravo Comics, and hello everyone to the House of Nerds show. Hello, friend.
We've got quite a crowd. There's already 18 people in the chat for a Easter Sunday late night show. Listen, I'm gonna be honest, and Jen knows this. I always get worried when we do night shows because I feel like we have such an awesome crowd that shows up in the mornings. Because we all know it's Sunday, you're running your errands, you have us in your ear. It's fine. We accept that. But we've got such a crowd for a late night show, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah. For sure. I know that I like sleeping in some Sunday mornings. This was a different Sunday morning because it was like Easter. So we're like, let's go ahead and do it in the evening. You know.
We gotta keep y'all on your toes. That's what we gotta do.
Yeah, we want to know who actually has the reminder button set, the notifications bell set. So thank you all. This was a test and you passed. I think I said, I'm trying to see who else. Hello, officially unofficial geek.
Absolutely. That's one of the people. That's one of the special friends that has seen some early merch. So,
yeah. And if you haven't been able to check out their YouTube channel, Carrie does some really cool like breakdowns of books, and like I got to join and listen to her talk about the new Doctor Who trailer. So go and check out her channel, please and thank you. And hello to Banshee Queen. Yay, can't wait to see the new merch. And hello, Jen and Mars. Hello. Hello, James. How's it going? Al, good to see ya. Hope you've been doing well. It's been a minute, but thank you for being here. Vincent, praise Satan, casually comic fam. Yes, thank you. Excellent. I'll go ahead and leave that up. So we like to start off with some news. There's been some news over the last 2 weeks. I know that there's been a couple things that I'm really excited about. What are you really excited about that's come out?
Well, there's nothing really exciting about this one, but you know, I'm gonna lead right off of the bat with this one because you spoiled this, or not spoiled this, but you jumped me with this right as we were going live, and I had to run to the internet to verify its truth. And I'm very sad and very upset and very angry. So
I'm sorry. The
it's
violence
Sunday.
was brought by
It's
Jennifer.
Sunday. We are choosing violence even on this wonderful holiday. Apparently, you know, I was telling Jen, I was like, you know, I'm pretty proud. I read like 32 books in the span of 2 days. And there were two books I didn't read that I wish I had time for, but I just couldn't get around to it. And I was like, it's okay because I'm thinking about dropping one title anyway. Only to find out then that that title has been unceremoniously canceled with issue number 15. That title is Black Widow from Kelly Thompson and Elena Casagrande. And listen, is this me? Is this my fault? Did I cause this? Because I was like, well, I like this series, but I don't know if I like it enough to keep picking it up in single issues, even though I championed this book from the beginning.
And it won an Eisner
And
Award.
it won an Eisner, and all of a sudden Marvel is pulling the plug, which makes me really sad because I feel like it's been doing maybe not as best as Marvel would hope. I mean, it's a Black Widow book after all, but for a Black Widow title, it's been a solid run, and now they're canceling it, and it's making me sad, and I'm choosing violence.
Yeah. This book started off the first couple of issues I wasn't sold, but I think it was like issue 3 where I'm like, yes, I love this book. It won an Eisner. That first arc was fantastic. Going into the second arc was pretty good. And it fell off a little bit for me. So even though I'm upset, I really love this creative team and I really love what this book has been doing. And in my opinion, it's been a better book than the Black Widow movie. So
not only that, but it's been one of the better Black Widow titles that we've had. You know, a lot of Black Widow stories really do succumb to that average, she's a spy and she's stoic, but she gets the job done. Whereas this run really kind of solidified her as a human being that has emotions and has relationships with people. That first arc, we see her have connections with Hawkeye and with the Winter Soldier. In the future arcs, we see her basically form a girl power team, which I really loved. And she's with Spider-Girl and she's with, I'm blanking right now. Why am I blanking right now on her sister's name? What is happening? This is what happens when we do shows at night.
Yeah. Yelena,
thank you. Why couldn't I think of that word? But we see Yelena being tied into it and some other really cool characters that are being tied into it. And then all of a sudden, we're getting a cancellation. And as somebody who has been consistently reading the book, you can tell that there definitely was more to be told. So I am really sad. And now it's going to be even more depressing to go back and read issue 15, knowing that it's the last issue.
Yeah. It's been a really good book. I think for me, it did fall off a little bit with how great the first arc was. So I'm not necessarily like not upset because I am a little bit upsetty spaghetti, but
it happens. Unfortunately, it happens. We saw it happen at the other side with DC with Aquaman being canceled with issue 6, even though we're only on issue 2 and its sales have been kind of decent. So I don't know, man. Comics are just weird. Capitalism is weird. I think we should stop letting Batman stories happen and let the real stories run its course. But, you know, that's just me.
And, you know, with the way that Marvel has been going, it's like they'll cancel a title all of a sudden. And then within a couple of months, they've announced that there will be a new #1. There'll be a new ongoing.
You think within the next couple months we're going to see a Black Widow #1?
I would probably say within the next year we will probably see another Black Widow title, if not Black Widow headlining in a team up.
It wouldn't surprise me considering we've seen it already with Marauders. We've seen it with Savage Avengers coming up. Silk recently had a little mini series only to be reviewed with a #1. Venom, Hulk. It's all happening.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if she comes back. So that's why I'm not completely heartbroken just yet about Black Widow. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Speaking of books getting announced, getting canceled, getting announced, this show, it's not a secret that if we just retired the Batman character for a couple of years, that
100 years.
100 years, there would still be 100 years worth of reading to do. There's currently about 20 Batman titles out, and I'm not necessarily like, I don't know if you would call like Batgirls or um uh yeah, Batgirls or Nightwing, like these are kind of bat adjacent titles. But I'm not really reading any Batman fronted titles. But the apparently the way to get me to start reading a Batman title is to put Rom V on it.
Just put Rom V on it
And
because that's exactly what they're doing. This week they announced that Rom V will be taking over the Detective Titles comic, or Detective Comics title, and Raphael Albuquerque will be alongside him. So if DC Comics' one goal was to make her read Batman, they did it. They succeeded.
They bullied me into wanting, that's it, because I'll pick up a Batman title begrudgingly and be like, Batman, I guess I'll read this for the culture. And I'll begrudgingly talk about it, but then I'm going to go into it. I'm like, oh, this is my favorite book of 2022 because it's done by Rom V. So DC bullied me into reading a Batman book, and apparently it's supposed to be a Phantom of the Opera. It's going to be Detective Comics. What is it? Gotham Nocturne, something like that. So it sounds like it's going to be very.
You suddenly have piqued my interest.
Yeah. So I not only is it Rom V, but I think just kind of gothic-y in general, I'm excited about. So they bullied me into reading and wanting to read a Batman title the same way that I'm currently bullying you into watching Our Flag Means Death.
And there it is.
Yeah.
I literally had a silent bet, y'all, to see how long it would be into the show before Jennifer brought up Our Flag Means Death. And I was hoping to get us under the 15-minute marker, and we clocked at 13 minutes. So I'm very proud of myself that I know Jennifer so well.
You really do. And I would really love, there's about 20 something people in the chat. I really want, can I get a hands raised or a flag raised?
A thumbs up emoji.
A thumbs up, something that says, have you watched Our Flag Means Death? Because it would mean so much to me. I love this gay pirate show so much. I have watched the first season so many times. It's stupid. And
it's only been out about what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it has done, in my opinion, extremely well. I love Taika Waititi, and he just I see him on screen as Blackbeard, and I just melt. I melt seeing Blackbeard and Stede Bonnet on screen giving each other googly eyes, and I'm like, please.
We have a flag in the chat, and I believe that it is a very accurate flag
that
for
is
Our Flag Means Death.
Yeah.
Very accurate flag.
However,
so that individual is lying because I also am watching Our Flag Means Death with that person, and we are only on episode 5, so it does not count.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. If you've even watched some of the episodes, I want to know, have you watched Our Flag Means Death? Even if you've watched some of them, even if you haven't watched all of them, because it is so good. And Sheena, thank you. Thank you.
So on from the Our Flag Means Death segment of the show, we have.
I'm keep bringing it up though.
She's gonna keep bringing it up. In more news, because it seems like there was a lot of news coming out from DC Comics.
Yeah.
In the past couple weeks, it's like they were really pushing to the forefront here, both in good and bad ways. So we'll give them a little bit of good before we tear into them. DC Comics last year announced a Webtoon exclusive title. And for those of you that don't know, Webtoons is a digital comics platform that is for free on your phone. It is most famously known for housing one of my favorite comics, Lore Olympus. And they did a Wayne Family Adventures comic last year where it was a new chapter every week. And it was just this fun little almost anthology, but not quite series that followed all of the members of the Bat family. It followed Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, you name it, they were there. It's probably been one of my favorite things from DC Comics in recent years, and is the best representation of the Bat family, honestly, that I think we've ever gotten. And DC Comics is doubling down because of the success of Wayne Family Adventures. And last week, they announced 3 new titles that would be coming to the Wayne family, or not to the Wayne family, to the Webtoons platform, including titles for Zatanna. It was Zatanna, Red Hood and the Outlaws, and Vixen NYC. So I am personally really, really excited. I think I'm particularly excited about Red Hood and the Outlaws for multiple reasons. A, it's my scumbag boyfriend, Jason Todd. But B, I'm just really excited because for the first time, we might finally get Jason Todd away from, what is his name? I am blanking on names tonight. What? I wanted to say Rob Liefeld, but I know that's not it. But it's somebody
Jeez.
just as shitty as Rob Liefeld. Either way, it's going to be the first time that we get Jason Todd and the Outlaws away from that creative hands. And I'm just hoping that we can go balls to the wall, insanity, and just charming and funny with it being on the Webtoons platform.
Is it I don't think that I would ever see their work specifically on Webtoons, but it would not surprise me at all if we saw our friend Tom King on that title. And I feel like Tom King, I don't know if I saw anything that was announced that he's doing something soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he said he has an announcement soon, but hasn't actually announced it yet. So he's kind of giving us a little like comics tease.
Yeah.
Comics tease. And yeah, I think that I wasn't into the Swamp Thing show because it like immediately got canceled, and I think it was because of some funding issues. It was supposed to be filmed in Georgia, but I do agree. I think that it's time for a good Swamp Thing show. I agree.
I agree. As somebody who hasn't watched it, I agree. But yeah. So DC Comics has a win there with putting more comics on the Webtoon platform. I've championed it before that anytime that we can get more books into the hands of readers, and not only readers, but mainstream audience readers that may not always pick up a title from DC Comics. It just makes me insanely happy, and it's free. So again, putting it into the hands of more readers. So that was my positive comment for DC Comics. Now it's time for the violence. So now it's time for the violence. So a couple weeks ago, we forgot to completely cover it, and I don't know how because
I think it's because it came out like the day after we did the show. Like it came out on Monday or Tuesday.
Probably. That sounds right. We're gonna go with that one. DC Comics, we need to talk because you announced once again that we would be doing a round robin. And for those of you that may not have been aware, last year DC Comics put like 14 titles against each other. All of these titles sounded insanely cool and creative. We had Justice League Queer. We had a really cool Green Lantern sounding title. And then you had a book called Robins, which we all knew was going to be the winner because people are always in favor of the Bat family. And it just felt like all of these titles were competing for nothing because everybody knew from the beginning who the winner was. And it got a ton of backlash because a lot of people, including myself, was like, why not just greenlight all of these really cool and interesting sounding titles, because they were things that we haven't really gotten to see. It was more than just your standard Bat title or your standard Superman title or so on and so forth. And DC Comics did not learn their lesson because they announced this year we would be having Round Robin Part 2. And while there isn't an obvious winner this time around, I still think it's a shitty tactic.
I agree. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this year I noticed, or maybe it was just more visible, but it seemed like there were creative teams attached to the round robins this year where I don't recall. Like I knew that there were going to be certain titles, but I didn't know that the creative teams behind them. From what I understand, like at first that felt really shitty because it's like, oh, not only are you promising me like this particular title, but oh, I'd really love to see that creative team. But then it sounds like the creative teams did get paid for their pitches as opposed to just being strung along, but it still just sucks. And agree, like they could publish all the titles and just cut
Like
half.
miniseries. I mean,
Yeah.
they could even do miniseries. It's been proven lately that it seems like a lot of the miniseries that DC Comics have been putting out have been pretty successful. And this year, I think, just makes it harder because there's even more titles that I'm interested in than there were last year. This year, we're getting Hawkman titles where it's Hawkman and Hawkgirl's Child. We're getting a Question team up book with Renee Montoya and Vic. And I'm like, okay, I want that. There was a Black Canary title that didn't even reach past the first round. So I'm already insanely upset because it's been too long since Black Canary has had a title. And it's just like, I want all of these. Like, how do you, like, I couldn't even vote. Like last year, at least I put my vote in the ring. I was like, all right, I know I'm wasting my time because we know who's going to be the winner. But this year alone, I couldn't even vote because I was just that excited for all of these books. And it's just, and Taylor, I agree with you. I think an anthology with 8-page previews to kind of give us an idea of what we're going to be getting.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really neat. I like
I
that
agree.
idea. I don't know. I think I'm more surprised than anything. Maybe I'm not surprised because it is DC and they've done shittier things in the past. But I think I'm more surprised that they had so much backlash last year and so much negative feedback, and they didn't even change how they were going about things aside from maybe not putting in an obvious winner.
I think that the reason why they are okay with the backlash is because even, what's that saying? Like, even bad press is good press. Because at the end of the day, we're still talking about it. We're still, I don't want to say promoting these titles, but we're still promoting the bullshit just by talking about it, because then we're talking about the round robin, and then in a couple weeks when it actually gets like, oh, this is the winner of that one, we're still going to be talking about it, and this is the winner. So we're doing free publicity for it anyway. So are we the drama?
We are the drama.
Yeah, we are the
Is
drama.
this play about us?
Is this fucking play about us? Speaking of which, really quick, I just want to clear something up. So there has been on the internet, at least on comic book Twitter, a discourse about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who put out not necessarily a review, but like a recommended reading and like a title of a comic book. And they suggested that people should read a little book called Batman's Grave. And there's been a lot of backlash, and there's also not only been backlash about him recommending this book for a couple of reasons, but also like who gets to be and who doesn't get to be a comic book critic. And because of this, I tweeted out, hey, sarcastically, hey, if comic book journalists and critics are a backbone of the industry, why don't we get credited the same way as artists and writers? And people thought I was serious. So I'm really sorry. If anyone thought I was serious, and like I think that what we do here is very critical, but I don't know. Anyone can be a comic book journalist and no one could be a comic book journalist. Am I right?
True. It's true.
Sorry. So, I deeply apologize for being sarcastic on the internet because people came for me.
God forbid you be sarcastic.
People came for me on Twitter, and like an adult, I just fucking ignored them.
Like an adult.
So anyways, sorry for being sarcastic on the internet and not making it readily apparent for people.
So other news, other comic book news, other than Jen being canceled on the internet, the biggest news of all.
Cancel me. Like, I'm here to say, please cancel me. I need a break from the internet. So if I need to be canceled, fucking cancel me, please.
There is some big news that came out this week from a little publisher called IDW. And that is the fact that they are now starting to go gun-ho with creator-owned titles. They are publishing, I believe it was 9 in the span of the year. Creator-owned titles, all of which you can find on IDW's website. They range from high fantasy to horror titles to really cool slice of life titles. And I'm kind of excited for this because it feels like as comic books evolve, as we're getting more indie publishers on the scene, like Mad Cave Studios, like Volt, Aftershock, it feels like IDW, while they've been around for a while, are kind of getting lost in the mix. Because I don't know about you, but when I think IDW, I immediately think like Transformers, My Little Pony, you know, a lot of like IP title type things where they're just latching on to like 80s titles and making them comic books.
Yeah, and I think that they this last year lost a good majority of them because they had partnered with Marvel, and I believe that Marvel was taking away some of the titles that they were doing. I don't know if Star Wars is one of them, but that was one of the bigger titles.
Mm-hmm.
They had done some like offshoots for that, and so I'm really glad to see that IDW is finally getting some creator-owned stuff because for me, that's where it's at. Like that's where indie comics
That's
are
where they
at, and
thrive.
yeah, and I think for Image being what it was and what I feel like it is currently not with a lot of titles, I'm really glad to see IDW could possibly potentially fill this void of indie comic books that
Yeah.
Image has been like, eh.
I'm excited. There's some really great titles. I know Liana Congas has been a huge champion for this new push for IDW, and she has a title included, True Cult, I believe it was called. Personally, really excited for that one, but there's a lot of really, really great titles. I mean, I was looking through the list, and it's like there wasn't a title that I wasn't remotely excited for. So again, it's just really great when these larger publishers that have been around for a while are willing to double down and give us more of what we're all looking forward to.
Yeah, totally agreed. I feel like also with indie titles, it's almost like a guaranteed bet that I will pick up a number one issue. And it's been a really long time since I've picked up a lot of IDW's like first issues.
Yeah, it's been a while. So that's really exciting for IDW. There is one last thing to kind of talk about before we jump into the comics, because of course that's why we're all here tonight. But finally, after what feels like 5+ years of waiting, we finally got a glimpse of the Nimona. I don't know how to pronounce it. Nimona
Nimona?
adaptation, which was a original graphic novel from Noelle Stevenson, and it is one of my favorite, I think, stories like of all
Yeah.
time. Like it's just a really great inclusive fantasy comic that kind of breaks the realm of what comics normally are. It's a little quirky, it's a little strange, it's definitely very funny. It's a great all ages title. And it was announced years ago that it was picked up by Disney. And if you don't know Noelle Stevenson writes very gay comics. Like, I don't think there is a single comic that they have written that is not gay, Nimona included. And I know there was a lot of, not necessarily controversy, but definitely talk from Disney being like, well, we'll do this adaptation, but you have to make it less gay. And that was not even an option. So it has been announced that Nimona is going to be heading to Netflix. We got our first little screen cap, and I think the art style just looks beautiful. We also have like an all-star cast. Like Riz Ahmed is going to be in it, and I absolutely love him from Rogue One. That's my little precious baby. We also are getting Chloe Grace Martinez as Nimona herself. I'm just really excited. We don't have a date yet, but listen, give me more indie comic adaptations, and not only indie comic adaptations, but animated indie comic adaptations, because when you get to some of these stranger titles, and I'm looking at you, Saga, we need things to be animated.
Yeah. I think that it would be really, really hard to do something like Saga not animated because it is really wacky and there's a lot of things. I would also say that if you really liked Nimona and you really loved Nimona is almost queer coded in a way and not explicitly queer. So if you really want, like, if you are the type of person who is like, I'm going to put up a sign that says, make it gay, you cowards, I would also highly recommend Our Flag Means Death.
And there it is. She's
I'm
two
so
for
sorry,
two,
y'all.
ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, y'all. I have to bring up Our Flag Means Death because it's gay and it's so good, and
And it's gay.
it's gay, and like and they're both boys. Like it's so good. So if you like that, like explicitly queer, I don't know, media, please watch Our Flag Means Death. And please watch Nimona because I really hope they make it gay.
I agree with Scott down here. I'm assuming Scott just wants to make a drinking game out of you talking about Our Flag Means Death.
I've got tea.
I feel like we would all be in the hospital if that was the case.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, my drink triggers would be Dune, canceling Batman,
and Our Flag Means Death.
and Our Flag Means Death right now. Yeah, please, if you have not watched it, please watch it because it's great. It's incredible. Taylor, it is awesome. It's funny, it's touching, and it's over way too quickly. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we have comics to talk about.
We do.
We're casually comics, not casually Our Flag Means Death.
Man, mentioned it. You got a drink.
We have lots of comics. We have 2 weeks worth of comics, and it's insanity. And Jen, your stack alone just makes me want to faint. So we have lots of comics to talk about. As always, let's throw it out to the chat. DC, Marvel, Indie. What do you want to hear us talk about first?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I have a hefty indie stack this week. Like, it's a hefty boy.
I think most of our stacks are usually pretty indie heavy. Yeah. There's a lot of books. There's some books. Yeah.
There's some stinky books. There's some good books.
Oh, goodness,
there's some just I read it and I completely forgot about it books. So I guess that would be a stinky book.
Okay. I'm currently organizing my stack by
organizing your stack. Well, you better hurry it up because the people have already chosen. It looks like we are going to have to talk about indie.
Okay, dang, bet. Let me go ahead, and most of these right here are indie. Yeah, like more than half my stack is indie, so you're welcome.
You don't want to hear me talk about Marvel? I read, hear me out, hashtag hear me out. I read 3 X-Men titles this week. So
I know one of them you were really excited about.
I guess you'll have to stick around for that. Yeah, there's one you were really excited about, and you're going to hate me for it, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, lots of comics, lots of indie books. There was a lot out from, it felt like there was stuff out from everybody this week. Like, everybody. And there was a lot of number ones. Within the past 2 weeks, there was like, I don't know, like 7 number ones. 8 number ones, maybe more.
Yeah,
don't make me count.
It's been more. It's more than that. I promise.
It's more than that. It's more than that. Should I just kind of pick one and see where we stick with it?
Yeah. Let's do
it. Why
don't
we talk about? There's one book that I feel like everybody's been talking about for the past 2 weeks, and I was really excited to read this book, and I'm excited because it lived up to the hype, and that is The Joneses #1 from Upshot Comics. Did you get a chance to read it?
I didn't. I didn't see it at my shop. My shop has been really good about ordering AWA, and AWA has been a fantastic indie. But they didn't get the Joneses, and I'm kind of mad because.
Okay, so
what did you think of it?
Well, Jen's sorting her stack. Let's kind of jump into The Joneses. So The Joneses is a new title from AWA Upshot. It is by Michael Morecci, who did the plot. Did he also do Not All Robots? Is that the same? No, that's a different writer.
Russell.
That's Mark Russell. So The Joneses feels like a weird cross between The Incredibles and Tom King's The Vision. It is this really cool, down-to-earth story where this event has happened, and they don't go too much into the event, which I kind of like about it. They kind of just throw you into it. They say something happened, where after it happened, some people got superpowers, some people didn't. And it's about this family that has superpowers. However, it feels like the family is sort of split, where it's like one half of the family loves having superpowers, wants to kind of showcase their powers and use them for what they feel they were meant to be used as, and that is helping people. And the other half of the family is like, no, we need to blend in, we need to stay safe. And it's kind of this really interesting divide because as it stands right now, they are all in secret, but they kind of go out and they moonlight as superheroes. And then you have the other half of the family who is joining these like anti-superhero groups. And I don't know. I really like it. It feels like a really great, solid story that gives you a lot of great character development, gives you a lot of really great character interactions. And I am just excited to see where this one goes.
Yeah, AWA I think has done a really good job of giving us these very contained stories, because most of them are going to be 4 or 5 issues long, and set up this world. And to answer Scott's question, AWA Upshot, I believe, is an imprint of AWA. I think those titles are maybe like separate, but all within the AWA umbrella. Um, I know that there are a couple of titles within the AWA universe that are it's a self-contained universe.
But there's
Um,
some that are shared too, and I thought that
yeah,
I'm trying
yeah.
to actually find that tweet right now because
I
it is here. It
I
is.
can
It
tell you
is.
for Resistance and
It's
right?
the Joneses. It's Knighted, Moth, and Erratic, and they all share a universe that begins with the Resistance.
Yep. So
I
I
think
think
that is so cool.
especially for AWA, who they give you these like self-contained like short 4 or 5 issue um series. I like that it's within a shared universe. So you're like, oh, I read this one. I'm going to go ahead and read this one, like Moths. And I think the Resistance were very interlinked. I haven't read either really, but I know my
Mhm.
co-hosts over Greg and Ryan both really like those. They're very big fans of
Greg feels
AWA.
like a champion for AWA. Every time you turn around, Greg is like, this new AWA title is the best thing ever. And then I'm like, oh, well, let me read it. And I'm like, Greg is right. It's the best thing
Yeah.
ever. So they've had really great titles recently with Not All Robots, with the Joneses, and with
Not All Robots was
Hotel.
fantastic. Oh, and Hotel.
Hotel, which we absolutely loved. And there's another title that at least I'll talk about. I don't know if you read it, but there's another title that I'm really, really liking from them. So I don't know. I'm really excited to see where they go. I'm interested to go back and read other titles from them, like Moths, and Bad Mother was another one that had my interest. So
That was one of their
really
first
excited to
ones
check
that they
out
came
one.
out with in 2020.
Very cool.
Yeah. What's another indie book that I've got one AWA Upshot. Number 2 came out. I will be a spoiler and let you all know that I actually didn't read number 2. But issue 1 was
That was going to
interesting.
be the book that I was going to talk about. What a great
Oh,
segue.
what a great segue. So I did not actually read issue 2, but issue 1 was pretty good.
I really like this title. I like it, but there's one thing about it that leaves just the nastiest rotten egg taste in my mouth, and I'll get to that. I really, really like Hit Me from AWA Upshot. It is a story following a sex worker who specializes in, how would you phrase it?
I would say
Pain management.
pain management.
Pain
So
management.
it seems like they do specialized fetish work
Specialized
where
fetish work.
people who pay them to get off on hurting someone in extremely violent ways, she offers that service. And I think that there are not a lot of stories that talk about sex work that
Is outside of
doesn't
the norm.
yeah, and that doesn't just treat sex workers as marginalized individuals, and like literally just like dead refrigerator girlfriends them. So I like, at least I liked the first issue for that. And I think reading the back of when Krista Faust wrote this, they talked about that, about how they wanted to make sure that it wasn't just talking down about sex
Mm-hmm.
workers. But what did you think of issue 2?
Issue 2, I feel like it kind of gave you that same fast pace right out the gate. Our main character kind of teams up with a dominatrix, which I think is kind of interesting because it's almost like that is the opposite of what she does. And I think that their dynamic is really great. The only thing that I don't like about this book is that for the second time in 2 issues, we are using a racial slur, and it was bad enough when you used it once, but when you use it twice in the exact same context from the exact same character, I'm starting to get a little annoyed, and I want to ask questions of, did this really need to be in there? Does it
Yeah.
really change your book that much whether or not this word is in there? And I'm not going to repeat the word because I'm just not a fan of it, but I don't know. I'm just kind of I would praise this book more than anything if that word was not in this book. And like I
Yeah.
said, I tried to kind of forgive it with issue 1, but seeing as how we've seen it happen a second time, I'm a little wary. I'm a little upsetty spaghetti.
That makes me kind of sad. I'm like, as you're saying it, I literally have it right here, and I'm like, what? I don't want to. Anyways,
But I like the book. I really do. I like the book. I think the covers are absolutely gorgeous. Jeff DeCall does an amazing job. The artwork in the book is great. I feel like if that is something that you can get past and you are okay with reading books about sexual workers, because I wish we had more books like this. I mean, I feel like the only other book I can really compare it to would be SFSX, because I feel like Money Shot, while it is sex positive, it's not the same. It's not the same.
It's still written by Tim Seeley, and I like Money Shot as a overall story and theme, but there was a considerable lack of consent given, considering that like it's literally like sex with aliens for money on screen.
Yeah,
I'm 100% not against that, but then I feel like, do we have the aliens consent in this story?
Did they write a contract?
Yeah, do they have a contract, or are we upholding the contract? So yeah.
But that's hit me number 2, and I believe that this one is a 5-issue miniseries.
5. Yep, 2 of
5 sounds right. What else did you read this week? What other books did you read?
One of the books that I think that you said that you had not gotten to that I read that I really enjoyed was Dark Horse's Breakout. This one was pretty interesting. It's basically about it's written by Zach Kaplan, who does some really weird, interesting books. And it's basically about these big cubes that appear in the sky. Like it looks like a big Borg ship appears in the sky, and it starts kidnapping children. We don't know why, for what purposes, but the children just end up disappearing. And one of the main characters loses their brother to one of these, and basically forms a plan to go get them. And I thought it was pretty interesting. You really feel for the characters in this book and what's going on. There are some moments that feel like it's trying to be a metaphor for gun violence, because it's talking about children doing drills in the middle of school, which, like, part of me growing up was doing gun shooter drills in the middle of school. So doing that, like, that's where I don't know, I landed on it. So it gets pretty emotional, especially when you think that this character loses their brother to the alien thing. I really liked it. It feels like it's going to be a cool heist book.
I'm gonna have to try to find that one. I know none of the shops I had or was around had it. I'm gonna be honest. When that book was on the listings for all the new releases, I thought it was like a Star Trek tie-in, because the cover feels Star Trek-y and the font of the title reminds me of Star Trek. I thought it was a Star Trek spinoff.
Yeah, I can once again, because it does look like a big old Borg ship there, 100%. And I wouldn't be surprised if the kids who are kidnapped and taken upon this Great Value brand Borg ship in the sky. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like one of those assimilate, resistance is futile.
Yeah.
Type situations.
What other books did we have? I know there were 2 titles from Aftershock this week that I had read that are very, very different from one another. The first one was, did you read The Ocean Will Take Us? I believe it was a title from last week.
Yep. So let me go ahead. I've got it right here. The Ocean Will Take Us. Did you get a chance to read this?
I did.
I really liked it. Like, I thought it was kind of fun. I didn't really have too many expectations, other than I'm like, oh, is it going to be very Aquaman, like Aqua Lads? But I thought it was fun.
I thought it was like a nice little all ages story. I mean, it's hit or miss in terms of the all ages, because for the first couple pages, it's like they were throwing curse words nonstop. And don't get me wrong, I know teenagers curse, but I don't think, I never cursed as a teenager, but teenagers curse, I guess. But it felt like it wanted to be all ages, but then it felt like it just wanted to be a story about teenagers. I did really, really enjoy the artwork in this book. I am surprised that this is a title from Aftershock, because I feel like Aftershock really hasn't done anything that's been geared towards that all ages audience. So it's really interesting to see them take on that role. And it's really hard to describe what it was about, because not much happened. It's a bunch of teenagers. They moved to a new school because the school is on the coast. They don't really do football, they do swimming. And we see that, I guess, one of the students is mixing with the fishies to get fishy super strength. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like to me.
One of the things that I personally liked in the back of the issue was that there's this, like, if you feel like you want to be the reading type, but there is this, like, school or
Meaning, if you're
town
not
news
Mars and you don't have a goldfish brain.
if you really love Jonathan Hickman and you love the Hickman info dump, this one is for you, because it does give you, like, I don't know, I like supplemental material like that,
And
where
Aftershock is really good with those first issues where they
Yeah.
give you these really unique sort of supplementary material.
Yeah. Another book from Aftershock that was a one-shot.
Mm-hmm.
I was not in love with this book, but I could definitely see where some people would be, and that was Midnight Rose. Did you get a
I'm
chance?
so conflicted about how I feel about Midnight Rose, because listen, I didn't even know anything about this book. I was just like, oh, it's a new title from Aftershock. Pulled it up digitally, saw the big words, Jim Starlin, and I was like, wait a second. And I mean, Jim Starlin, he's known for, Thanos. His child
Yeah.
is Thanos, but he's known for doing these really epic space type stories and these, like, granular titles that are just huge. And to see him do something that felt so small and contained, it was a little weird and off-putting.
Yeah.
I have so many feelings about this book.
I personally feel like it was a Swamp Thing ripoff.
I was thinking that. So, to kind of break it down, Midnight Rose, it's this girl. She has poison ivy powers. That's how I'm going to describe it. She's got poison ivy powers. And that's where it comes in that it feels like this book was intended to be a poison ivy arc that Jim never got to pitch to DC. And so he was like, fuck it. I'm just going to change some names, make it my own thing, pitch it to Aftershock, and do what I want with it. That's how it felt to me. But it basically goes through her life where, she has shitty boyfriends. So then she body horrors them and kills them. And there's some really great body horror in this book that I really appreciated. Then she goes and she marries some dude and they live happily ever after, and then she dies. There are parts in this book that gave me some really great good for her moments. But again, it feels like a knockoff Poison Ivy story that never got to be pitched. And not only that, it has probably some of the shittiest artwork I have ever seen. Like, this is artwork that was trapped in 1998, and it's not fun to look at.
I agree. I don't think that the artwork was horrible, but I would also say, considering who Jim Starlin is, I would 100% think that they would be able to get a bigger name artist on this book. But maybe they would get a bigger name artist on the book if it was more than a one shot.
Maybe.
And but I don't even know if I needed more than what this was.
Starlin, and Scott's asking, Starlin did not draw it. Who drew it?
Nicole Jelanik.
It was not, I don't know. I read this book initially being like, oh, I'm going to hate this and I'm not even going to finish it. And then it kept going and I'm like, I see moments in this that if we could flesh out, I would really enjoy. But again, even up into, our main character dying and then from the ashes, her 4 new daughters get born. I'm like, oh, this is Amy Chu's Poison Ivy book. And the whole thing, I'm just like, this is a Poison Ivy book that never got to happen. So I would say if you're a fan of the Poison Ivy character, because at one point this character does get red hair, I would watch or read it because you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was just kind of, I don't know. I have a conflicted feeling with Aftershock and them doing these like one shots, because it's like, where are you going to go with this? Like, it's not like it's going to be published anywhere else. It's going to look awkward sitting on my shelf. There's not been a single one shot that they've done where I'm like, oh, I need this, and this is like the best thing ever, and it's life changing.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that there's a lot of potential, and maybe it could possibly become that.
Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll
I
see.
believe that one did end on a to be continued, maybe. Did it? I think.
It says
The way
one
it ended
shot.
it. The way it ended. I mean, I know it says one shot, but you know how sometimes they say to be continued with a little question mark?
It says, for some, there is no such thing as the end. So it's like the end, question mark.
That's basically to be continued. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Okay,
So
we hit
maybe,
that one on
maybe
the money.
we'll see a universe. Yeah.
We hit that one on the money. What other books did we read this week, Jen?
This one's actually from, did we talk about this one, or maybe I just talked about it on my Friday show? Did we get a chance to talk about Season of the Bruja?
Yes, we did, and I really want to read that book now.
Well, good thing is I've got 2 copies, both signed. So I will go ahead, and the next thing I send you, I'm going to send it to you. But it was really good. So.
Nice. There was a little book that came out last week from Boom that I was really, really, really excited for. Like, when this book was announced, I was like, this is what I need. This is the content I crave. And then I read it and I was like, well, that kind of sucked. Did you read Alice Ever After?
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about it?
I didn't hate it. And I feel like I should be a better reviewer, comic book, I don't know, journalist, whatever the hell I am, about it. But I do, sorry, my cat is currently screaming for crunchies. That's what they think about it. But Alice Ever After is basically, I don't know if I have it right here, but Alice Ever After is a book about Alice, instead of going into the looking glass, ends up in this own like warped reality, addicted to drugs, maybe. I liked it. After thinking about it for it's been 2 weeks now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it on my pull list.
I like the concept. It felt very poorly executed. It was extremely bland in terms of the writing. I think the artwork was gorgeous, especially when you have those moments where we're in Wonderland and you get this kind of storybook feel for it. That artwork was gorgeous. But it honestly felt like this was trying to almost be Fables mixed with a little bit of Sucker Punch.
Yeah, yep.
And it just didn't do it for me. Like I said, it felt very bland, which I think is ironic when you think about a story as huge as Alice in Wonderland. I mean, I feel like there are so many things you could do with that, and it just fell flat. Maybe this is one that if I find it in a discount bin when it's in trade and I pick it up, and maybe it'll be better altogether. But that first issue really just it didn't do anything for me.
I think too, I have fatigue with IPs that are in the public domain, that it's like anyone can go ahead and like take a dip into it, and that's definitely the Alice in Wonderland type stuff. I feel like I've seen every single iteration of it, where this does have its own interesting qualities. I feel like I'm over it. I feel like I've seen every iteration of Alice in Wonderland properties.
Yeah.
So.
That's very possible. Yeah. Give me some Beauty and the Beast. Where is that sexy romance Beauty and the Beast monster title that we've all been waiting for?
Yeah, buddy.
I'll pitch that book right away. So that was Alice Ever After. The only other Boom title I can think of, and I'll kind of gloss over it, but it's 7 Secrets number 16. I believe that this might be the penultimate issue.
It is.
I don't know how to feel about it because so much happened in that one issue that I'm like, how are you going to wrap this up? And I'm not wondering if maybe they're going to wrap it up only to announce like a spin-off title possibly in the future. That really feels how they're setting it up. But the more I think about 7 Secrets, the more I'm realizing I loved it in the beginning. And I still think that first arc is probably one of my favorite things in media. I feel like when we start to jump into the fantasy aspect of it, we start to introduce things like fairies and demons and magic powers, we lose grasp on what the story is truly meant to be, and that's just secrets and involving history with conspiracy theories and character interactions. And I feel like the longer that this book goes on, the more that I hate it. So part of me is like, no, I don't want Seven Secrets to end because I love it so much. Another part of me is like, I don't want it to run the way Die did, completely into the ground, and I'd rather it just end where it needs to be.
I agree. I think that Seven Secrets has done a better job, because by issue 16, I was like, Die needs to fucking die. For this one, I'm like, keep giving me, fuck it. Let's get 8 secrets up in here. So I think that either this one is the penultimate, or we may have 1 or 2 left. But I agree. There was an issue, I think it was issue 7 or 8, where all of a sudden it goes off into this like alternate universe type thing. And I'm like,
it's like a parallel dimension with like magic and fairies and stuff.
Yeah. And that was kind of weird. But I agree that first arc was really, really good. If you haven't had a chance, please pick up.
It was rock solid, and probably one of my favorite things Tom Taylor has ever done.
But Tom Taylor is currently on a lot of things, so if we need him to finish this so he can do other things, so be it. I'll put 7 Secrets on the chopping block for that.
I agree. Other titles. Volt had a little title that came out called West of Sundown. Did you get a chance to read it?
I'm trying to find it here. Spoiler alert. I didn't read it.
Didn't. So we'll kind of gloss over it. I read it. It's from a new title from Volt Comics. West of Sundown is kind of like a Western vampire story, except I didn't realize that until after I had read it and went back to read the preview solicitation for it and that little description that you get to be like, oh shit, this really is about vampires. So it's essentially this, I believe it was like a Civil War soldier that gets rescued from a vampire lady, goodness queen, whatever you want to call her, and the two have been together for a while, but he's still human, and then all of a sudden her house gets burned down and attacked, and all of her soil is burned, and so now she has to be trekked out across the country to the middle of nowhere and cowboy land to retrieve some dirt. And it was just messy, and it wasn't fun, and a lot of times I didn't realize what I was looking at. And like I said in the beginning, I read the book and then had to read the preview solicitation to really understand what this book was about. And it's a shame, because I think that the concept of vampires in the Old West could be really, really fun, especially when you think of female vampires kind of manipulating men as they were. I think it could be really fun, and it just did not hit it did not hit the mark for me.
I think what happened with this book is that Tim Seeley, who is a co-writer on this
book...
You're
really coming for Tim Seeley.
Listen, Tim Seeley did the Vampire the Masquerade, co-wrote that, and I feel like this was something that was supposed to be pitched within that universe, but couldn't fit neatly into the Vampire the Masquerade universe, which was also published by Vault. So I think that, bringing on another co-writer and getting this. I also recently read, what was it, Western something, published by Scout Comics, which was a vampire Western story. So it got muddied for me. Sorry.
It's a shame, because I know Volt specializes in a lot of horror fantasy titles.
I like that.
I love that they are a specialized publisher. However, I think having 3 vampire books, kind of not necessarily back to back to back, but we had Bleed Them Dry, which was this ninja sci-fi vampire story. Yes, I said ninja sci-fi vampire story, and it is very good. Please read it if you haven't already. Then you had Vampire the Masquerade, which was a tie-in to a video game from 2001 or whatever.
A LARPing. I know it as LARPing.
A LARPing. It was also a video game, I believe.
I only know it as a LARPing.
But now you have West of Sundown, which is a cowboy vampire story, and it's almost like I kind of want Volt to not touch vampires for like a year. Play with some other monsters. Like, let's get a Frankenstein book. Get me a Creature of the Black Lagoon type book. Give me a werewolf book. I don't think we've seen. Oh no, we saw Lunar Room, which wasn't very good, and that was werewolves. But
There was also Squad, but that was an original
Squad,
graphic
but
novel.
that was an original graphic novel, and I don't even think that was Volt. I believe that was somebody else. But let's play with some other supernatural creatures. Let's try some other things. Let's shelve the vampires and see where we come in about a year.
Yeah. Cole's Comic Claims asks, do they have a vampire cooking book? I do not believe so. That would be the next step. That would be the next step.
A vampire cooking book that that would actually be kind of interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any other Volt titles? I know there was one that came out, but I didn't have a chance to read it, and that was We Ride Titans #3.
Didn't get a chance to read it. No.
Okay. We got no more Volt.
I think I have one more Volt that I didn't read. Oh no, sorry, this is Scout Comics.
Okay.
Sorry. I am not going by I mistakenly don't have mine set up by
she's just jumping around. Meanwhile, I have a spreadsheet that I'm like, we're gonna go here and if we're gonna go there. I'm overworking.
One of the other books that is like also vampire-y is Cult of Icarus. Mm-hmm. I picked up issue 2 but did not read it. This is
published. What is that? That's Scout, right?
Yep. The first issue was like there's this young woman, she's trying to figure out like who her dad is, and it from what I remember, either her or her family member is like vampire hunters, so like Blade-ish, but then there's like literally like a cult. I feel like I prefer this to West of Sundown.
And that's a Scout title.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of little towns, because I'm going to be honest, this book came out this week, and I was like, didn't I already read that? Because I kept confusing it with West of Sundown, and that is a book called A Town Called Terror. Damn, we're on the same. I love when me and Jen do that, guys. It just makes me feel a little warm and fuzzy that we know each other so well that we already know what book we're talking about. But A Town Called Terror came out from Image Comics this week. I believe it was done by one of the creators of 30 Days of Night,
Steve Niles. Yep.
What did you think about it?
I liked it and didn't like it. Some of the artwork in it is just really beautiful. Like we get a lot of
I think that's one of the defining points of this book is the artwork. Artwork's gorgeous.
Lots of big splash pages, and I think that Steve Niles works best with creators like 30 Days of Night, where the artwork is just really dreamy, especially considering that it, 30 Days of Night, horror, vampires. So I really liked it. This was, for me, a very, very fast read.
Very fast. Like, it was over before we could even grasp what was happening. And I think that's one of the reasons I didn't like it, is because I wanted to know more, and it feels like it, but I also feel like that's what a comic should do, where it should give me just enough where I'm like, but I want some more. And I feel like that's what A Town Called Terror did, because it starts off with this very serial killer-esque moment where somebody comes back from the dead, but they're wearing somebody else's head. Then a guy gets kidnapped, says, hey, you have to go and see your dad. He died again, but then he came back. And I'm like interested in this weird cult setup we have going on, because obviously you have a group. Obviously we're doing the trope of, person wants to get away from their family or away from this community that they've known to live a normal life with their spouse, and they're kidnapped. And then on the other hand, you have the spouse who wants to know where their husband has gone. It's this woman. She wants to know where her husband has gone. She's gone to the police. Footage has been wiped. There's been no proof of a break-in, but she knows that it happened. And I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see what this hidden surprise is, what this Town Called Terror really hides, because it's like, is it serial killers? Is it supernatural? Is it vampires?
Is it monsters? Yeah. It reminded me a lot of I Am Legend.
Ooh.
That was the thing that I got a sense of the most. And I Am Legend, depending on what iteration of that you consume, whether it's movie, book, whatever, could be considered monster or vampire. This also gave me EC comics vibes,
I
so
don't
a
know what
little bit
that
more
is.
old school. The like classic monster type stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what this reminded me of. So
Hmm.
I liked it.
I did. I
It was
liked it.
too
It was.
short
It was.
though. It was too
It was.
short.
It was definitely one of the books. I will say it was probably the book that surprised me the most this week because I opened it thinking, okay, it's going to be just a very bland title. I feel like we've been getting a lot of those lately where they're very underwhelming, and this
Mhm.
one was
Yeah.
just enough to keep me interested and just enough to make me want to read issue number 2. But that was by Image. And also from Image, since we're on the topic of vampires, we got, what was it? It's No, it's not Little Vampires. Little Monsters, number
Little
2.
Monsters issue 2.
Little Monsters issue 2. That's Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. I didn't love this as much as issue 1.
Not gonna lie, I didn't love issue 1 of that book.
I
But
did.
I it's this says a lot, but it's probably my least favorite team up between Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. I really love Ascender, Robin and Batman, the little
Mhm.
one shot for DC this past year. I love those titles a lot. This is my least favorite team up between them, and I'm just not loving the story. I can't even put my finger on it, and be like, maybe it's the artwork isn't as great as I thought it was. I can't even tell you about any of the characters from Little Monsters, but
It definitely feels like a lot of those characters got lost with issue 2. It was very much setting up some backstory that I kind of didn't see how it tied in with issue 1. I definitely feel like this isn't one of Jeff Lemire's strongest works. And I love Jeff Lemire. I find it very hard to read something by him that I don't immediately love. And I think a lot of it might stem from the fact that I am hot off of reading the entirety of Sweet Tooth, which was
yeah.
so good, so emotional, so connecting that it feels like Little Monsters is just like the bottom of the barrel when we think about Jeff Lemire. And that makes me sad because I really wanted to like this book and I was so excited about this book.
Especially considering like Descender is such an emotional story. I really wanted that from Little Monsters. Didn't get it. So
I mean, I might, because the way that, Little Monsters number 2 ended, it definitely leaves on a cliffhanger. And it does have me curious because that cliffhanger could lead us into some really great emotional depth that Jeff Lemire is known for in issue 3. So I might give it one more chance. I feel like at that point we'll be at the halfway point because I believe that this is a 3-issue mini. Or
oh,
not a 3-issue, I'm sorry, a 5-issue mini, so we'll be right
okay.
at that halfway mark, and then I can kind of go from there. Am I gonna continue to read it issue by issue, or am I just gonna wait for the trade at that point?
Got it. One of the titles by Image
Don't
that
do it.
is a hot topic in the casually comics
Don't
household.
do it. Don't do it. I'm not ready yet.
Okay,
Oh, no. Okay, we're just gonna rip the Band-Aid off. Oh, no.
is Rain. It kind of this disappoints me because this is such a beloved title by many, and I hate reading this book. I
Can I get
hate
some
it.
F's in the chat for just my brain when I think about rain? That was a rhyme, so should get some double F's in the chat. I don't even know if people do that anymore. F's in the chat. I don't know.
I don't know what that
Um,
means.
I don't even know either. I just know a lot of people do it. So if I could get some L's in the chat, I don't know, some tears in the chat, tracks of my tears, Smokey Robinson. I don't know. That's how I'm feeling right now.
One of the reasons
Oh,
why this title just I continue to dislike is because
because it
the
hates gay
original story.
people. We're just
Mhm.
gonna come right out and say it. It hates gay people.
It does, and it's very sad because it was originally a short story by Joe Hill. I haven't read it, but I do know that from what I understand, it stayed kind of closely to this original story, but it is written by David Boer, who is a queer man, and Zoe Thorogood does the artwork, queer woman, And this book just seems to hate gay people.
It
It
does.
features queer characters and consistently puts them through agony. And I'm here to say this is probably going to like surprise and shock you, but if you want nice things to happen to gay people, you should watch Our Flag Means Death.
Okay, I will, you know what? I will let you have that one. I feel like that was brilliantly placed. I will let you have that one tonight. You know what? Because as you said, this was a novella by Joe Hill, infamous son of Stephen King. Part of me is like, I want to read this novella, and y'all already know I do not read things without pictures. But I hate this book so much, and I'm so invested into like the why this book is the way that it is, that I was like willing to read the novella. So listen, if I can get 10 people in the chat right now with thumbs up telling me to read it, I will read the novella, and I will come back here with the final issue of Reign to kind of give a side-by-side comparison. So then 10 people in the chat with thumbs up. I will read this shitty ass novella, and I will get back to y'all. But for now, y'all have to hear me bitch about issue 4, because issue 4, I didn't think issue 3 you could get any worse than issue 3. I was proven wrong, because issue 4 shows us some of the blatant forms of homophobia. And this book is already homophobic because you killed off your queer person of color in the first issue. The first 5 minutes, you killed off your queer person of color. And so once again, we follow this girl, Honeysuckle. First of all, what the fuck kind of name is Honeysuckle?
Who the fuck? That name. That sounds like,
yes,
I will be very honest, it sounds like a chosen name.
It does. Yeah, but do you think Joe Hill thought about that when he wrote this character?
I think Joe Hill appropriated it from queer culture.
Maybe.
I think maybe he got that right.
It's very possible, but either way, I'm still mad. So we have Honeysuckle, who has been held at gunpoint at this point by this convict that is like, you're going to take me into Canada. She says no, flips the truck within 2 pages, gets to the house of her dead girlfriend's father, only to find that the father is dead because a homophobic neighbor tied him out there. And
did so because he let the daughter babysit their kids or something like that.
I don't even know if that's the why. I think it's just because he's homophobic.
Yeah.
But to make matters worse, not only do we get this really awkward moment where Honeysuckle takes the father in, sleeps next to the dead father, which I thought was extremely creepy, because who's willingly going to sleep next to a dead body? I don't care if this is your do-over dad. That is the only part that I thought was really cute, was do-over dad. Why would you sleep next to a dead body? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not only that, but Honeysuckle then chooses violence, which, listen, I'm here for choosing violence. Chooses violence in the form of revenge, and basically decides to orphan this young girl by doing to the neighbor exactly what was done to her do-over dad. And part of me is like, yeah, this homophobic asshole gets what he deserves.
For her.
But it's the idea that, you know, she walks out of the house, she sees this young girl who is terrified. My dad is dead. Spikes are raining from the sky. What do I do? And Honeysuckle's thing is, that bracelet wasn't yours to have. My girlfriend gave you that, and literally snaps it off of her wrist like a bully teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I hate. And then I thought this book ended, and I thought, okay, we reunite with the little kid from the beginning of the book that has no reason for being there other than, I don't know,
trauma. It feels like
trauma. And I thought that was the end of the book. Little did I know, there is one more issue. And apparently the world's going to end because in solicitations, they say that the U.S. bombs Europe because they think they're the cause of it. And I'm just like, I hate this book.
Yeah. I don't know why I continue I continue to buy it each week or each month.
I don't, because Jen, we are on the Image Comics press list. We worked hard to be on that press list. But you continue to give Reign and Joe Hill your money.
I do.
It makes me sad.
I've got an issue with object permanence where I'm just like, if I don't see it in front of me, it does not exist. So yeah.
I hate this book. Once again, I hate this book. There has never been a book, I think, on this channel that I have hated as much as I do Rain. I mean, we always joke, Cold of Dracula, You
Oh
Promised Me
jeez. Oh
Darkness,
jeez.
Freak Snow. We
Oh
hated
jeez.
these books, but we stopped at issue 1.
With some
We
of
are
them. I did get really into Casual Fling.
You did. So I feel like every year we have one book that we're just hate reading.
That's Rain for me this
It's
year.
Rain. It's Rain this year. Rain,
100%.
as we joke that we have a book of the year on this channel, I think our hate read book of the year is Rain
Oh,
from
it
Image
is.
Comics. I think it's official.
But I think this book, the feeling is mutual. It hates me as much as I hate it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I hate Rain. I hate Rain. I hate it. Okay, we're done with the Rain segment of the channel. There's another book from Image that came out this week. I don't know if you read it. It's called Image. It was an anthology. I
I
guess because
bought it. I
Image
didn't
is
read it.
okay. So Image is 30 years old. So we get an anthology story. Spoiler alert, I did not read the first one because it is Jeff Johns and I refuse to read anything he writes anymore. However, there's some other really great creators. There's Scotty Young has a really cool title. Brendan Fletcher and Erica Henderson have a title. And I love Brendan Fletcher from Isola and Black Canary and Erica Henderson from Squirrel Girl and Assassination. We also have the creative team from Bolero. And I really, really like their story. Okay. It has to deal with a cool little demon girl, and I love her so much, and I would like her to eat me. Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
we've
I,
made it to
I,
the I want this person to eat me segment
we
of the
have, we have.
show.
Um, there was a lot of stories in here that I like enjoyed, but then part of me was like, I don't want them in an anthology that I have to read every month.
Together.
I
Yeah.
just because some of them are continuations, some of them are one shots or like little self-contained 4 to 5 page stories. I There's some of them that I'm like, I would read a whole comic of this, and if I could even just get maybe an Aftershock oversized one shot, I would be happy with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I need more. I needed more from it.
And next month, it looks like we're going to be getting a story from another channel favorite, Marca Andolfo.
There actually is already. Oh my god! So okay, all right, we got to get into the Mirka Andolfo story because Mirka Andolfo has a story in this about a old
Oh,
serial killer. About an old serial killer. Now, hear me out. The concept of this, I think, is really great. So it's an old buff lady serial killer who I would like to murder me. Thank you. And I guess she has gotten to the point where she is too old to murder. So she
never too old
uses
to murder.
well, she's too old. I mean, maybe if you can't physically chase people down the way that you would normally. Like, I can kind
Oh,
of get
okay.
maybe she just can't run as fast or she can't pick up people as fast. I don't know. I think the concept of it's really cool because she then uses like virtual technology to assimilate herself in her youth and to go on these killing sprees. And hear me out. I know that sounds fucked up, but I kind of like that concept. What I don't like is that her first killing spree is in a strip club and she goes around aimlessly killing women. And it's just, it's one thing, and I'm going to play that card because I can. It's one thing if it's coming from a man writing that type of story because I would expect that from a dude writer. But to have a female writer and artist write something like that, it almost feels like she's writing it for the dudes.
I think that's if I had to pinpoint, that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Mirka Andolfo's writing and artwork is because it feels like it's consistently written by and for the male gaze.
Yeah.
Not the gays. I'm here for my girls, gays, and theys. But this book feels like it is written for the one, like all of the poses that the women are in, everything that the women go through in all of her stories. Just it feels like anime fan service to me.
It does. I agree. And I feel like this story really kind of nailed it home. So, like, if I could take that concept and clean it up. Make it more inclusive. Make it less grimy. I would really be into it. Like, hear me out. If, like, I know he specializes in anthologies, but if, like, somebody like Maxwell Prince was, like, writing something like that, where it was, like, dark but kind of comical, I would be for it. I
There
like the
is,
idea of it.
in the next month's issue, there is an Ice Cream Man one-shot story by Maxwell Prince in here. So I'll be reading that for sure.
It's almost like you got me in a box here. I got it. But yeah, that was Image. It was a little anthology. I think I'm burnt out by anthologies. I think being on this channel, reading as much as we do, it feels like we've read so many anthologies, and I don't think there has been a single one where I'm like, yes, this is amazing. Everything in this was perfect. I want more of this. It just feels like anthologies are forced.
I think that there has been a saturation on the market of anthologies. I personally think that they work the best when there is a consistent storyteller. For instance, Hotel, published by AWA, I think is fantastic.
Haha, Ice Cream Man. Maybe when you have a consistent theme and a consistent tone and a consistent creative perspective, maybe.
Yeah. I do think that the anthologies of, what was it? The Silver Coin. I think that some of that got a little bit muddied up because were different creative teams each time. Hey, Bueller. This is the Bueller segment of the portion of the show. Bueller. I wish that like Bueller could just pop up and us be like, Bueller, where are you currently at? Spoiler alert, Bueller's currently in Albuquerque, New Mexico, living his best comic book van life. I love it. Please go follow Bueller on Instagram and YouTube, because I've been really loving following. So thank you for
a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for taking some time out of your bus life. Living your bus life.
Living your bus life. Love that. We got to get shirts for Bueller that say that.
Yeah. Yes. I still got a couple of books that I did, or some of them I've read, some of them I haven't.
What indie books you got? Because I think I'm all indied out.
Okay. One of the books that I kind of liked, kind of didn't. I wish that there was a colorist involved, but Ghost Cage, I just really loved the feel of this book. It definitely gives me big monster vibes. Like those, if you liked Ultra Mega, I feel like you would really like Ghost Cage. Done by Nick Dragata, and Caleb Goellner is a co-writer, but Nick Dragata does the artwork. I really do wish that there was a writer, or a colorist rather, but
yeah.
Anyways, I didn't read it yet, but issue number 7 of Human Remains, which was published by Vault. Haven't read it yet, but a pretty good story. Also published by Image, Nita Ha's Nightmare Blog, which is an offshoot of Philadelphia by Rodney Barnes. This ends the arc, and I thought it ended pretty interesting. So, let's see here. Issue 2 of Radio Spaceman. Read this one. It was just a little simple twofer, 2-issue little miniseries by Mike. I loved it. It was kind of wacky and weird. It reminded me a lot of a Aubrey Sitterson story in a way. So, issue number 5 of Daisy, published by Dark Horse.
You're still reading that?
I loved this book. This was the last issue. The tone of this book has been religious, but not like in a, I don't know, protesting outside of Planned Parenthood religious type way, but it's really weird. The artwork in this is just dreamy. I really liked it. There were a lot of religious overtones, but just weird monster. Anyways, I really liked it. It ended. Please pick it up if you haven't gotten it. If you can find the trade. One of the books that I haven't read, but I'm really interested in reading, is called Vanity, published by Vault.
I was hoping you would read that one.
I didn't read it. Did you?
I couldn't even get my hands on it. But
well, good thing.
So I'll be
sending you one.
Nice. Because listen, anything about Elizabeth Bathory, like, listen, y'all got me in a box.
Yeah. So I'll send you a copy of that because I got 2. Let me see here. I didn't read New Masters number 3, but this is one of my new recent favorite books. I really, really like this weird sci-fi, Afrofuturism sci-fi dystopian story. I've really been digging this. Last book on my indie list is IDW's The Rocketeer. I really wanted to love this story, but I didn't love it. I'm sorry.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. So that's my just like quick all the stuff that other stuff that I got.
I think so that's everything you have for indie, right?
Yeah, that's everything I have for indie. Everything else, chat, tell us. Do you want us to do DC next, or do you want us to do Marvel next?
I think we should save Marvel next, or Marvel for last, just because, we got some X-Men titles and some X-Men feelings.
Yeah. X-Men feelings?
X-Men feelings.
Do we want to do DC? I only have 2 or 3 books for DC.
Yeah, I have 3 DC books. One of them is kind of like an indie book, so I think it would be a nice little segue, because I'm sure you read the newest Black Label title, Nightmare County, set in the Sandman universe. Knowing that you are the biggest Sandman fan of the Casually Comics crew.
I am.
How did this new interpretation of that universe live up for you?
It really did live up, because there's been a couple of other Sandman Universe-y titles that have come out within the last couple years. This one really feels Sandman-y to me, and really feels like it picks up, especially because it feels like we get some throwbacks to some other characters. I did not, and it makes me really sad. I did not get the 1 in 100 Jenny Frison death variant.
Listen, I tried. I contacted 3 shops for you. Could not get my hands on it. We need the hookup.
So that makes me really sad. But I would say if you've read Sandman, even if you've maybe just read the first volume, I would 100% recommend picking this one up. And James Tynion does he's the writer on it. Lissandro Estherine, Yannick Paquette do the artwork for it. There's some switching off of the art, but I really like it. I think that if you are really liking Tynion's Nice House on the Lake, I think if you like that book, you would also really like this. What did you think of it?
I did not like it, mostly because, okay, hear me out. # hear me out.
I want to preface this with, you also did not love Sandman.
I did not love Sandman. I struggled with Sandman, and if I'm being honest, I attested a lot of that to the time period that it was written in and the style that it was written in, but maybe I'm just not a fan of the Sandman universe. That being said, I was really looking forward to this book, because the way that this book seemed and the way that it was pitched, and maybe this was me reading it out of context, was that I was thinking maybe it was going to be this road trip-esque adventure that was a social commentary into how shitty America is in certain aspects, in certain places.
What it feels like.
And I thought that's what we were going to get. And I was like, okay, we're going to get this Purge-esque storytelling, where obviously it's not the Purge, but we have this social commentary, and I really like stories on that. So I went into this book head first expecting that, and didn't get that. Instead, I was just very, very confused, if I'm being quite honest. If you were to ask me right now what happened in this book, I can tell you that somebody got laid.
Yes.
And that was it. And there was a lot of eyeballs with teeth, which I did not care for.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a Sandman.
There's some weird body horror. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a Sandman thing, but I was a little freaked out. And every time that came up, I was like, don't like this, don't like this. That being said, Nightmare County has put me onto the realization of something. Every book that Tiny Onion writes is a self-insert. If we look at all of the main characters, if we look at James from Something Is Killing the Children, if we look at what is his name from Nice House on the Lake, the alien, Walter. If we look at Walter from Nice House on the Lake, if we look at the female main character of Nightmare County, they all look like James Tiny Onion.
do. It's like they have the
Everybody
glasses.
looks like James Tiny Onion. They've got the dark hair. They've got like the kind of chubby cheeked face and the thick framed black glasses. James Tiny Onion, listen, as one of his artists need to confirm this for me when they pitch over designs. Does he specifically request for the main character to look like himself? I need to know this because right now I'm feeling very much like Charlie Day with my conspiracy board. All of these characters all look the same. They just look like they're in different phases. Like, obviously, James from Something That's Killing the Children is the child version. Walter is the adult. This other character is the gender bent. If I'm wrong, tell me. But I feel like I'm onto something here.
Okay, I feel, and so maybe
This is my Solid Blood.
Oh my God, Solid Blood 17 is a crossover.
This is my Solid Blood 17.
Yeah,
he agrees. Thank you.
He agrees. Yeah, there's a couple. I see. I really like it, and
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just need to know if I'm right.
I'm gonna go ahead and say you are.
James Tiny Onion, you're watching the show. Just DM me. I won't tell anybody else. Again, I'm not saying this as an insulting thing because you have a very great look. I need to know. I need to know. Are these characters interlinked? Is it all shared universe? I'm onto something. I'm going to think about this all night. It's literally all I could think about when I read the book.
Well, I'm going to continue to pick it up just because it's like Sandman related. Like, of course, I'm going to. I'm going to wait for some of the main characters. I hope that they, like from the Sandman universe, I hope they show up. I still think that you could probably read this without reading the Sandman, but
you're going to get a little lost because I was very lost.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the books that I read that was DC that I really enjoyed, which is a 6-issue limited series. Did you happen to read Flashpoint Batwoman?
I did not.
Okay. Well, it features the Batwoman that is currently in the CW verse, which I haven't watched, haven't really enjoyed the CW verse Batwoman, but I still really enjoyed this. It looks like we're going to get different versions of the Flashpoint universe.
Sandman expert, I need your answer on this question because I can't contribute.
I think that they help in depending on which one that you get. So the Sandman spinoff that I love the most was The Dreaming, written by G. Willow Wilson. That hands down was one of my favorites. Would 100% recommend. Yep.
Good to know. I can't contribute to that, so I figured I'd ask the expert. Let me call on a buddy of mine.
Yeah, that would be the one, like if I was going to recommend one of the Sandman spin-off series that isn't like the Death spin-off series, that one 100% would recommend that, but that one's more in tune with the Sandman universe, where the Sandman, The Dreaming, written by G. Willow Wilson, is going to be a little bit separated from that. Yeah. I've only got 2 more DC, and one of them is Batgirls.
Oh, we don't have the same. We don't have the same titles then, and I'm nervous.
Ooh. This book for me has been feeling very messy, and every time I read this single issue, I'm like, wait, what's happening? Oh, that's happening. Okay. So I think I need to drop this, and I think I need to just wait for the graphic novel, like the trade, to come out.
That's what I've been doing, because I personally was not a fan of issue 1. I don't know if it was Jorge Corona's art. I don't know if it was the messy writing from Becky Cloonan and William Conrad, but I agree it should have been this fun, like millennial Gen Z romp that was extremely meta. But I just feel like when we compare it to a book like, say, Burnside Batgirl, I feel like it misses that mark.
It reminds me almost of the first Suicide Squad movie, where it felt like there's a lot of different things going on and there's a lot of characters. And if you don't know a lot about the Batgirl characters and like maybe their backgrounds and who they are, it can feel a little bit messy.
Which is a shame, because I feel like this should be a nice, casual, friendly read.
Yep, it really should, and it's not.
It's not. That's a shame.
The last book from DC that I have on my list from this week is Superman, Son of Kal-El, which just is Tom Taylor doing the best.
Jen, This book made me cry.
What page, what
This
moment
book
was
made me
it?
cry. So, first of all, because Tom Taylor's listening, we are almost hitting a year of Superman Son of Kal-El. We're on issue 10, with issues 11 and 12 on the way, and I still can't believe that a Superman book is one of my favorite things from DC, let alone one of my favorite things on my pull list. It is just absolutely insane. The fact that he has given us such an inclusive title, and that's with everybody that's been on this book, all of the artists, the colorists, everybody involved. It is an extremely inclusive book. Um, it is just, it's insanity to me that this is happening, because we didn't talk about it in the beginning of the show, because I wanted to include it with Superman Son of Kal-El when we talked about it. Tom Taylor is including and bringing Dreamer from the Supergirl television show into the DC universe in terms of comics, being one of the first trans female characters as a superhero. And I say that as a superhero because we have had other trans female characters with Alicia Yao in Batgirl with Gail Simone. But this is the first like big superhero. So the fact that he and the actual actress who plays Dreamer is collabing and bringing them into possibly one of the queerest titles right now, I love that. So there's a lot of reasons why I love this book. Unofficial geek hit on the head, Lois Lane Mom of the Year.
Yeah.
I want Tom Taylor to write a Lois Lane book because
Ooh.
he makes her fantastic and fabulous. There's this whole thing where she's confronting Lex Luthor and is like, listen, you're trying to frame my son. Touch this lasso of truth and tell me if you are telling the truth. Tell the whole world if you're telling the truth. And then we find out it's literally just a lasso that she painted gold. And listen, I love her for that.
Yeah.
That does beg the question. So if the world knows that Jonathan Kent, who is the new Superman, is Lois Lane's son, do they know that Lois Lane is married to Superman and is married to Clark Kent? Because I thought, now again, I'm not the biggest Superman fan. I'm not in the Superman lore. I thought that 100 years later, obviously not 100 years, but I thought that 100 years later, it was still a secret that Superman and Clark Kent were the same. So I need some clarification there. I'm a little confused on the lore, and I shouldn't be thinking that much into it, but I definitely did.
I think even it's not necessarily even lore. I believe you're right, because even in the first couple of issues of this arc of Superman, the new Superman, John Kent, has to put on like a fake ass blonde wig to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the first issue, so it had to be like kept secret. So it feels like, I don't know. Is it a secret? Is it not a secret?
I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just going to have fun with my queer Superman title. I'm just going to have fun with it. So on to the part that made me cry. I joked with my partner. I was like, I'm going to cry on stream tonight because I'm reading the book on the couch right
Crying in the club.
Start crying. So, you know, it was confirmed a couple months ago that Jonathan Kent is bisexual. And as somebody who is bisexual, that is a big deal because we don't get to see that a lot in comics, let alone from male characters in comics claiming their bisexuality. So that's a huge one there. Well, he has been in a relationship with the other main character of this title, Jay. And they finally decide that we are going to tell Mama Lois that we are in a relationship, that I'm gay. And, you know, they go to tell her and she immediately pulls them into the kitchen and cuts them off completely. And she's just like, I love every single part of you. And as somebody who is queer and bisexual, I wish that's how my mother treated me when I came out of the closet. I mean, don't get me wrong. My mother, you know, there's definitely people that were treated much worse when they came out, but I remember distinctly when I came out, it was almost played off as like a joke.
Yeah.
And my feelings weren't validated. My queerness wasn't validated. And being bisexual, you know, and I've said this live at conventions before, being bisexual compared to being gay or a lesbian, it is very difficult because your feelings are constantly going to be invalidated. Because if you're dating a female, you're gay. If you're dating a male, you're straight, you know, and vice versa if you're the opposite sex. So there are times that I feel ousted from the queer community, even being bisexual. But the fact that in one single panel, in one single sentence, Tom Taylor was able to make me feel validated from a fictional character that I don't even fuck with. Like, I don't care about Lois Lane. She's cool, whatever. But I felt seen in that single moment. So, book of the year again, 2 years running, probably.
I would say that if you love that moment and you want to consume more queer content that poses queerness not in a traumatic way and an accepting way, please keep watching Our Flag Means Death, because the creators specifically, David Jenkins, is that his name, specifically said we want to do queer content that isn't a coming out story and isn't traumatic. So if you like that, I'm gonna say it again. And it's true, like bi erasure is a problem,
It's a
and as
problem.
someone who is in a like maybe a straight passing relationship, which
Agreed.
it's hard to be
We're
like,
2 for 2 on the Casually
yeah.
Comics crew.
And it feels rough sometimes because it's like I want to be like, it's tough. Not as tough as
Tough.
like, I grew up in the like um anyway, it's tough sometimes because you're right. I don't feel like I can be like I'm gay because people will be like, but are you not dating this person who could pass as a man? And it's like none of your business. Anyways, and it's tough because you get invalidation from a lot of different angles. So it's really cool to see this
It feels
book.
good to be seen, and it feels good that this feels like the flagship queer title, which I think is hilarious to think about because, we're getting a trans character introduced. We have 2 male queer leads, with one of them being bisexual. We haven't really been confirmed if Jay is just gay or if he is also bisexual. So, but he's still a man in a queer relationship. We also have non-binary representation because we're getting characters from Tom Taylor's previous story, The Suicide Squad, with Bruno Redondo, where he had a non-binary character in a queer relationship with the Airy and Wink, and they have been in the story a lot lately. And who would have thunk? That's all I'm going to say is who would have thunk?
And it's still just a great story overall.
It is.
So I'd recommend it to almost anyone who likes superheroes, maybe has been out of the comic book superhero game for the past like couple years. Definitely would recommend Superman Son of Kal-El.
It's a great title. Now, you said that was your last DC title, but there is a very big title you're missing. Did you not read Wonder Woman Historia number 2?
I do have that one. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
you got me scared.
Sorry.
Because Wonder Woman Historia, we've been waiting for this one for a while.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm slightly disappointed, and I hate to say that because I am not in love with the artwork, so I was not drawn into this book the same way that I was drawn into the first one.
See, I feel the opposite because while I love Phil Jimenez's art and I love the absolute intricate detail, and I'm not going to lie, when it was announced that Jean Ha would be taking on Volume 2, especially with that cover we got, because I don't think the cover is great. I think that cover is, I hate to say it, it's fucking ugly.
Oh, right back. Give me a second.
The cover for Wonder Woman Historia number 2 by Jean Ha is fucking ugly. So when it was announced that Jean Ha would be taking over the art on Wonder Woman Historia number 2, I was really, really nervous and really disappointed. However, reading the second issue of Wonder Woman Historia, while I miss Phil Jimenez's artwork, I think that Jean Ha really has kind of stepped into the role. He's kind of been able to take on the same style and format that we get, where it's still the classic little like Greek story and mythos, and we still get those really cool designs from the Greek goddesses and the Greek gods themselves that we got with the first issue that Phil Jimenez presented us with. So with Wonder Woman Historia number 2, it really does put a lot of the focus on Hippolyta, or Hippolyta. If I'm being quite honest, I never know if it's Hippolyta or Hippolyta. I think it all depends on who's talking, so we're probably going to go back and forth on this one. But this one follows Hippolyta, as she is searching for the Amazons. Whereas in the first issue of Wonder Woman Historia, it really was this kind of build up between the Greek goddesses deciding that women were going to continue to be treated unfairly, that the gods would never care about them, and that they would have to take matters into their own hands. And so they basically formed tribes of their own, each one representing a different deity, being Hecate, Athena, Artemis, and so on and so forth. And so Hippolyta, feeling ousted from her community and on the run, is in search of the Amazons, in search of a place of home. And anybody who knows the Wonder Woman mythos, we all know Hippolyta as the queen of the Amazon. So it's really cool that this has become a Hippolyta origin story, for lack of a better word, inside of this larger universe where we can see her take on that role, see her become a leader, and how the Themyscira that we know it was formed, because there's been so many different retellings of it, but it feels like none of them have ever really stuck. And I feel like this one's going to be timeless. And my only
Ooh.
gripe with it is that it's only 3 issues. Like, listen, I want to live in this universe forever. Like, I could honestly read 50 issues of Wonder Woman Historia if we were to break it down by all the different goddesses and all their different tribes, because listen, this book was announced like 4 years ago and it was well worth the wait.
I think one of the I love what they're doing, and I really think that there could be room for not just Wonder Woman Historia, but maybe even like go deeper into like other DC mythos. One of the things that threw me off for this, and I didn't know that Phil Jimenez wasn't going to do the second book, is why was there such a wait from the first book to the second book if it was going to be different artists?
I don't know. Especially because I don't even think issue 3 has been announced, and it leaves the question, is Jean Ha going to continue with the third one, or are we going to go back to Phil Jimenez, or are we going to have an entirely different artist? Because if that's the case, I would kind of accept that, because it's different phases, and I feel like Phil Jimenez fits for that build up and that storytelling and that world building. And then we have Jean Ha, who kind of comes in and takes on that sort of filler role. And then if we had a third artist that kind of matches that unique stylization, I don't know. It really is hard to judge this book in its entirety without having it in its entirety. And for now, I just kind of have to base it. I'm really trying to individualize them. Issue 1. I mean, issue 1 last year, I jumped right off the bat and was like, this is book of the year. I don't even care. You could never have another issue and this would still be book of the year. And listen, I still feel that way. And I feel like issue 2 only strengthened how I feel about it.
I think that once it's all printed, it's probably going to get like a big oversized, because the book is big and oversized. I think it'll obviously
deserves that oversized treatment. Like, that's when we were talking about that. What was it, like 2 weeks ago with Rogues, where it was like, why is it that some books get this oversized magazine treatment and some of them don't? Listen, Wonder Woman Historia, that's the one book that deserves it, because there is so much detail.
It does. So I'm excited to see issue 3. I don't know like how well it's going to wrap everything up, because it feels like there's not necessarily loose ends, but it's like, I want more. I want more than 3 issues. It deserves more than 3 issues.
I need more. It's so different that it's like we only want more.
Scott, coming through with the knowledge, says he believes that Nicola Scott is doing issue 3, which sounds right. That 100% sounds right to me. So I would like to see Nicola Scott do that. But then I don't know if there's 3 different artists on the 3 different issues, they could simultaneously be doing the artwork. So I don't know why there's like a 4-month
such a wait.
That
who knows?
So we'll see.
Who knows?
That was those are the DC books that I had.
That's all I have.
So now it's on to Marvel.
Now we talk about Marvel. Now comes the moment y'all have been waiting for.
Yeah. Were there any faves or not faves? I know I said I got Black Widow issue 15. Sorry. Issue 15. Yep. Which is going to be the last issue of this.
Did you read it though?
I did not read it yet.
Okay.
Nope. So we'll see.
So there was definitely a standout book for me.
I
In
know which
terms
one it
of,
is.
no, you don't.
I don't.
No, you don't. Here's a little book that came out last week. I was not going to read this. My partner was insistent. We have to get this book. Can you please, or actually, it was very cute. They were like, can you please order me a copy of this book? You're that comic girl. Please order me a copy of this book. I'm like, of course I'll order a copy of the book. And it was sitting there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read it. The little book called Spider-Punk. Did you read Spider-Punk? You didn't like Spider-Punk, and now I'm sad.
I did not like Spider-Punk for like 20 different reasons.
Oh no. I really
my biggest gripe being that the book had the shittiest paper quality. Like, I know people have been complaining about the paper quality for
paper
years.
Quality. Okay, so it wasn't just me and it wasn't just my copy, because I felt like when I took it out, I had to be like, oh, it's a little fragile baby. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So yes, paper quality was really bad.
Holding it, I'm just like, I do not enjoy this.
Yeah, it was definitely weird.
But for me, the story didn't feel, I don't know how to describe it other than it didn't feel, it felt too forced.
I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. Maybe it's because like I'm a little punk baby that goes into like little punk dive bars, and I really like seeing the words Nazi punks fuck off on a page.
See, but that's where it felt forced to me.
I liked
because as someone who also like
is a little punk baby who goes to little punk dive bars.
Yes. I felt like it felt forced in the way that in a lot of books you see protest happening and it feels very forced. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I didn't love it.
See, I heard a bunch of negative things about this book before I had even read it. So I already went into the book with a negative mindset. But then I was reading it and I'm like, I'm just having a good time with it. I love the art. I love how colorful it is. I love that there's cute little references to punk songs that I listen to on the reg. I love the redesigns for Captain America and Riri Williams. I like the fact that punk Captain America is in fact fucking queer, and I'm all here for that. I don't know. I just had, maybe I'm like the one person on the planet. I had a fun. It was fun. That's all I'm going to say. Was it anything groundbreaking? No. Did I have fun? Yes. That's all that matters.
Will you be buying? Will this be on a pull list of yours? Are you going to continue reading this?
My partner has to read it. If my partner wants it on a pool, then absolutely it will go onto a pool. I would be fine with just reading it by trade. However, the covers are very cool, and I believe that some of them are going to be framed at some point. So that is a TBD.
Okay. Interesting. To me, that's like where I draw the line, I guess, where I'm like, is it a good book? Would I continue reading it? One, will I continue buying it? Because buying and reading are two different things. And yes, it could have a bomb-ass cover, but
now listen, if you will spend tangible, physical, hard-earned, worked for money on Rain, but not Spider-Punk, I will be disappointed.
I'm gonna buy the last issue of Rain just to have it and read it. I will probably wait for the trade on Spider-Punk.
I'll have to keep you posted then. I'll have to keep you posted.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun with it. So, on to some other books, because I guess that was the one that threw you for a loop.
Yeah.
What other Marvel titles did we read this week, Jen?
Between this week and last week, one of the titles that I was really excited about, however, I felt incredibly disappointed by, was an X-Men book, and it was Marauders. I don't know. I think maybe I'm just going to say I didn't love the artwork of this book.
I loved the artwork.
It felt anime-ish for me, and that threw me off.
You hate everything I love.
I know that's a stupid, silly kind of criticism of the book, but I felt like there was a lot going on, and I didn't love Marauders.
There was definitely a lot going on. There were a couple of things that I think I'm starting to come with the terms that maybe I just don't really like X-Men, because this book just felt very average for me. That being said, I did like the artwork. I really like the fact, because I feel like this is the first time I've noticed it, because don't get me, like I read Marauders Volume 1, and I think I read Volume 2 of the Hoxpox era. I mean, I guess we're still in the Hoxpox era, but I read volume 1 and volume 2.
We're technically in the Destiny. So there was House of X, Powers of 10. Then there was the Dawn of X afterwards, and then the 10 of Swords, and now there was Reign of X, and now we are in the Destiny of X era.
So I just need a timeline chart then, because obviously I'm a dumb doo-doo head who does not know what she's talking about and is a fake comic journalist. But I read Marauders, the original Marauders, and I read volume 2. And I feel like this is the first time that I really noticed Kitty Pryde's Star of David being drawn prominently.
Okay.
And I really, really, it's so simple, so subtle, so stupid for me to be excited about. But I really liked that because I often forget that Kitty Pryde is Jewish. And while I understand, a character like Kate Kane, Batwoman, is not going to go around wearing a Star of David, it feels like a very Kitty type thing to do, especially in the outfit that she's wearing now. So I thought that was really cool. Another thing I really liked was I know it's not an introduction because it's a character that's been around for a while, but she was introduced to me, is Charles Xavier's evil sister, whose name I do not remember. It's like Cassandra something. Am I wrong? I feel like it starts with a C.
I'm going to pull this up. Give me 1 second.
Chat, help me out, because I don't know X-Men. No, I lied. I'm the X-Men pro.
That's why you're wearing an X-Men shirt, right?
That's why I'm wearing an X-Men shirt. Listen, I don't own any X-Men shirts for that reason, because I know I'll be asked and I'll be like, oh. So I don't know. Sorry. It's Xavier's evil sister, Cassandra Nova. Thank you, Scott. Scott coming in with the wins for us. I knew if anybody would come through, it was Scott. I was close. I feel like I deserve brownie points because I remembered that it was Cassandra, and she had a really badass last name that sounded fake, and that's it. I'm sorry. First of all, any character named Cassandra Nova is a good character in my book. So I knew vaguely from things that my partner has told me in terms of X-Men lore. Yeah. I knew Xavier had a twin sister, and I knew that my mind was blown when I first learned it. I guess I forgot about it because then I was reminded again while reading Marauders. And my mind was even more blown knowing that she blew up Geonosis or Geonosis is Star Wars. Geonosis is Star Wars. Genosha is X-Men. But knowing that Genosha, she blew up Genosha, which, listen, I know is the X-Men haven that Magneto created, all because of a TV show. It's fine. It's how I know this stuff. So I kind of want to read more of this Cassandra Nova. I kind of want to see her blow up Genosha. I think it could be fun for me.
Okay.
So apparently I have to read New X-Men. That's what I've been told. So I guess I'm going to read New X-Men. I don't know. I just think she's neat.
I just think it's neat.
That's how I feel. That's my thoughts about Marauders. It's very long and drawn out and has nothing to do with the actual story because I can't tell you what happened, but
I feel like it gets spacey, which I did like, but it reminded me of we only find them when we're dead.
Yes.
That's what it reminded me of at the end.
Also, is that an evil Magneto at the end? Is that what that's supposed to be? Because they called it like the Red Eric or something, and I'm like, is this evil Magneto?
Eric the Red. I do not believe so.
I don't know. Somebody tell me. I'm not going to read the rest of this book. Just tell me.
I didn't get an evil I didn't get a Magneto vibe from them, but I could be wrong.
We could be wrong.
Yeah. Speaking of red stuff going on.
Damn, look at that segue.
And just incredible Magneto moments. Did you get a chance to read X-Men Red?
I'm going to be honest. I read this book last week.
Okay.
I remember I only got about halfway to 3/4 of the way through it.
Oh my God.
I can't tell you what happened. I want to say no, because that was an Immortal X-Men. I can't tell you what happened in this book because I was going to say, I think that Magneto stood up in front of the council and was like, all right, I'm leaving, bye. But that was Immortal X-Men. So I can't tell you what happened. I know that Storm is a queen, and that's all I got for you. And I think Magneto went to a castle.
Yes.
That happened, right?
Yes. Yep.
I remember some stuff.
There's some great moments with Magneto in here for sure. It does go a little bit backtrack into Storm, which I really liked. I think both Magneto and Storm have some incredible moments in here. I am also a pretty big fan of Magneto in the OG red and purple
Hell yeah.
outfit, and that's where we see him. If you did not finish, I don't know if this is like a spoiler, but I have to say, Storm showing up at the end.
Whoever designed Storm for this book needs a fucking raise, because listen, Storm has had a lot of really great fits in the past. Like Mohawk Storm, probably top 5 of all time superhero designs. That might be like number 1, if not number 2.
Yeah,
that's a good fit.
I really did. I enjoyed X-Men Red. I think that was one of my favorite reads last week. Yeah. One of the books that I'm really happy to hear that you liked from this, was it this week or was it last week?
I think it was this week.
All my weeks are getting mixed up. But X-Men 92, House of Charlie XCX.
You spoiled it, man. I was going to come on. I was going to be like, I finally read Hoxpox. So chat, I finally read Hoxpox, but not the one that you wanted. And listen, I'm reading this book, right? Because I'm just like, oh, new number 1. It's the next title. I should probably read it to satisfy Jen and her happiness. I'm like, all right, I'm going to read it. And I saw the word House of X. And I'm just like, maybe it's like a spinoff. Maybe it's like making fun of it. And then I read it and I'm like, texting Jen, and I'm like, is this just a simpler goldfish-brained version of Hoxpox? And you were like, kind of, in the X-Men animated universe.
Yeah.
This is all I needed. Like, I don't need that Jonathan Hickman info dump. Listen, I have a brain the size of a goldfish, okay? Goldfish brain in this chat. I can't understand what's going on in Hoxpox. I'm going to be honest with y'all. This book has been sitting on my shelf since November. I have promised many of times to read it. I am struggling to get past page like 14 because I'm not able to grasp what is happening. I feel like I need to take notes as I read this book to remind myself what's happening as it goes on. I was able to figure out what was going on in this book. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure. You can spoil it if you want. I'm pretty sure Jubilee is not in Hoxpox, or is she actually the reason why they create Krakoa?
She's in there a little bit from what I remember. She does show up a little bit more later on, closer to the swords of X, 10 of Swords.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she's not the reason. They don't have her literally hidden in a bunker and it's like, hey, go create Krakoa, a place for men to X-Men.
Well, she is hidden.
Oh.
But she's here.
Well, no, I mean an actual Hoxpox, they don't do that. Like, obviously that's because she was such a big part of the 92 X-Men.
Yeah.
Like, obviously some things are changed, but I feel like there's some things that are, I don't, maybe I'll go back and read Hoxpox.
I think we could all use a Hoxpox redo for sure. One of the things I do not like about this, and it's just because it's me being a bitch, I fucking hate Cyclops, and every time I see Cyclops, or I'll be completely honest, if I see Gambit or Rogue, I'm just like, bleh. I do not like them.
And there was a lot of that in this book.
There was, but I really appreciated it.
I just like the art. I think the art was really cute. I like the art. I was very nostalgic because, listen, I fuck with some X-Men 92. You know, that's what I grew up with. That is where 90% of my X-Men knowledge comes from. The other 10% being from Wolverine and the X-Men. But yeah, it was fun. It was interesting. I think it's interesting that Hoxpox is so huge and so life-changing that Marvel greenlit, or somebody pitched, let's do a X-Men 92 version of it. I think that's interesting because it's like, what if we jumped over to DC and did a Batman animated series version of Tom King's Batman? Or let's name something, I don't want to say The Killing Joke because that would be terrible, but you know what I mean? Like, I think it's interesting. It's like, I kind of want to jump across the pond and do that with DC. I think it could be neat.
Yeah.
I
And
just think it's
would you do like a Tom King Batman version of that? But
probably. I think it would be more fun.
yeah, I would say that era, doing anything like that, I wish that Darwin Cook was still alive to get that artwork. Like that would be the throwback for me. That would be like the animation style
Yeah,
comparatively to this, but we won't get that.
100%.
Um, I do have a lot of other X-Men books, or sorry, a lot of other Marvel books. I didn't read a lot of them though.
I have 2 that I read.
What were the two that you read?
She-Hulk #3. She-Hulk, I feel like there's nothing really to talk about, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that just is just a really fun new introduction to the character because it takes a lot of things from She-Hulk's past where I can tell you right now, being the She-Hulk stan that I am, I don't know the stuff that happened in her 80s run or her 90s run or whatever. But it does a really good job at catching me up on that so that way I can focus on the story being told at hand. Um, it's just a lot of fun, and I really like it.
I think one of the reasons why there's not very many, I would say, groundbreaking moments in She-Hulk is because it's more self-contained to just She-Hulk, as opposed to her being with a team. So she's not like with a force or anything like that. There's not a lot of other characters that are more than dipping their toes into the universe. So I wish that there was a little bit more than that, but it is more of a self-contained story. So yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. The only other book that I have from Marvel that I both read and didn't read, I cheated, was Elektra 100.
Okay. Yep.
I kind of skimmed my way through Elektra, but stopped on a very specific story that had me very interested, and that is obviously the middle story. I believe it was done by Declan Shalvey. Declan Shalvey, that focused on Elektra and Daredevil dancing on the rooftops in a very romantic way. Very romantic. I hate you, you hate me, I love you, you love me sort of way. And I've always liked that.
That's 100% their relationship.
I've always liked their dynamic and relationship, but hashtag hear me out. My last hashtag hear me out of the night. No, it's a lie. I probably got one more in me. But when I read this, all I could think about is what if we could get, and hear me out, a Tom King-esque Batman story, but with Daredevil and Elektra, where it was these two characters really at the forefront of the story. And it really did kind of focus on their relationship and their love in a romantic manner. Hear me out. Give it to me. Thank you.
I think Tom King would be the person to do it, especially if it was that like Batman Catwoman, because that's 100% Daredevil and Elektra. I
want it so bad, please.
I also just need more of this like Matt Murdock thirst trap in a towel right out the shower. Thirst trapping.
Please just give it to me. I will sell my soul. I never knew I wanted it until I read this little short story, and then I was like,
"You're like, okay, I need it."
So yeah, I want it. Please give me it.
That was pretty much all the Marvel that I read. I got a couple of other Marvel books like Star Wars, High Republic, and things like that I just haven't caught up on yet.
Because there's so many comics.
There are, but that's why we're here to read most of them.
It's why we're here. And speaking of comics, I kind of wanted to talk about a little comic that's coming out from our pals, because our pals over at Mad Cave Studios, who we absolutely love for books like Stargazer and Terminal Punks. It's 10 o'clock at night here. I should be in bed in my little jammies. But they've done some really great books, and they're a publisher on the rise. They were fantastic to send me over a little press kit for their newest book, Potions Inc., which is set to debut in July. It is a new series from them. It's all ages. It's really great. It's really fun. It's really colorful. They sent like this is crazy. Like they sent over all of these like fun goodies and stickers and potions. And it is just a really fun high fantasy story about this young man who is trapped working in his parents' potions shop. All he wants is adventure. And one day the like a family charm is stolen, and joke's on you. Your parents depend on that charm, and if you don't get it back, they're gonna die. So he finds himself traveling into our world, and not only is he in our world, but he is in Seattle in 1992. And this fantasy world that Potions Inc. has created is already magical and interesting. But I think dropping these characters from this high fantasy setting into the modern world, it's a trope that's been done before, but dropping them into that 1992 nostalgia, listen, you got me. So that debuts in July. It is currently on FOC. Please tell your comic book shops that you want Potions Inc. because it's going to be a really great book.
As soon as you, like, I think you said a picture, or I saw a picture that you posted, like, it just looks really cute. I didn't know that it was set in Seattle in the 90s. I think that the, like, 80s gets a lot of nostalgia. I'm ready for 90s nostalgia.
It's very fun, and they sent over this little card that says location the Grand Market of Blossing, and there is a phone number on here that you can dial for a little treat. So if anybody wants to dial 800-723-0358, that is a real actual working number specifically for Potions Inc. You can dial it right now and you'll be in for a little treat. I haven't dialed it yet, but I think it's going to be really fun.
That is very cool. Can you text it is what I want to know, because I don't call anyone for shit.
I think you can only call it. I think it's like a pre-recorded message. Like, like back in the old days where you would like give somebody a fake number and it would give you this, haha, you called a fake number. I think it's like that, where if you call the number, it's a cute little pre-recorded message. I promise you do not have to talk to any weirdos.
You don't have to talk to any weirdos, but you can listen to them every Sunday.
Every Sunday on Casually Comics.
Excellent. I'm pretty excited about Potions. Anything magical like that, I'm here for. Exactly. That's pretty much everything that I have. Do you have anything for you? Comic Toby wanted to know what the homework was for next week, and I said it's to watch Our Flag Means Death. If you've watched it once, please watch it again. I need a season 2 renewal.
You're going to get your season 2 renewal. It's the most watched show. You're going to get the season 2 renewal. Also, John is asking for a repeat of the number. I'm going to do you one even better. I'm going to pop it right here in the chat for you. Call that number, Potions Inc. You get a fun little message. Hopefully I wrote that in right, because sometimes I'm dyslexic. Yeah, that would. I don't think. Hold on. I did right. No.
723-033.
No, I did not write it right. So disregard that first number. Hold on. The correct number coming for you now. If you call that number, I can't guarantee what's going to be on the other end. Should I also tell you guys that I work with numbers all day in my 9 to 5? I promise I'm not terrible, but sometimes I am. So, dun, da, da, da. Listen, it's late. I should be in bed. I should be in bed. This is not working. 800-725-0358.
725-0358.
There it is. In the chat for y'all.
There we go.
That's the number for Potions Inc.
I want to know what happens when you text any of those numbers, even if it's the wrong number. Let me know what happens if you accidentally text the wrong number. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you, everyone who was here, listened to us
rant and ramble.
Like Mars said at the beginning, it sounds like we're going to have some merch up and available hopefully in the next upcoming weeks. If you haven't already followed us, look at this beautiful graphic that we got. Please follow us on them.
All of our socials.
Yeah.
Everything. So now every time you watch us and you want to get a hold of us, whether it's to yell at us or thank us, you always know where to find us.
Yeah. Let us know, what books you're reading, what books you're not reading,
what books we should be reading.
Let us know what episode of Our Flag Means Death that you are on, even if it's your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th time watching it. I want to know.
She needs to know.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click end broadcast. But everyone, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you all. Mars, I really appreciate you. And I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.
Bye.